to the Red Stool, and today we're going to be talking about Endeavor, Dabi, and Todoroki, what their past, present, and futures hold for them as individuals and as a family. So, to start off, we have Endeavor, current number one hero, and he's the father of Dabi and Todoroki. But I feel like where his story starts is with him and that desire and want to be the number one hero, and how he more than likely was, maturing of age and becoming an adult as, hero society was put into place, and the goal of number one was put in front of him, and he accepted that goal, and in turn took the hero name Endeavor, because he knew, he was like, okay, that's my goal. I'm gonna become number one. And Endeavor means to take upon a goal. So he put himself through the training. He mastered his quirk, Hellfire, and he began to push himself to become number one, and steadily climbed the ranks. But he runs into All Might, and as time progresses and goes on, he begins to realize that he can't surpass All Might. I'm pretty sure as it started, he was still, he still had faith in himself and the ambitions and that loftiness. Like, I just need to try harder. I just need to approach things from a different angle. I just need to do this, that. And he went through years of that, which I think that's where his psychological damage begins to end, because for him, it's number one or nothing. Number two means the same thing as being the 100th hero. It's only number one. There's no room for anything in between. That's what his mindset has allowed him, and that's the approach that he took to it. And what the issue was, he runs into All Might, and he understands that there's no way that he can possibly surpass this man and become number one. But that mindset won't allow him to just accept being number two, even though that's a great accomplishment of itself. It's the same thing as a failure to him. So I'm pretty sure that's where he begins to psychologically turn on himself a little bit. He probably looks at himself in the mirror. He hears his hero name Endeavor. I'm the number two hero. My goal was number one, and I can't seem to reach it. His back is too big. He's too far away from me, and this is more likely eats away at him psychologically, and he probably begins to develop his own issues with his self-esteem. You can see how he doesn't talk to people. He's not friendly. He's distant. That's because insecurities can often do that to people, and they can often make you act out in such ways to where, I don't want to be around people, because you assume that they see the same things that you see in yourself. And he sees himself as a failure, even though he isn't. He's the number two hero, because his position in hero society is just as important as All Might's, because what's the number one without a good number two or number three to back him up? And we've seen it plenty of times with Endeavor now that he is number one, when he gets the help from Hawks or Best Genis, or even when All Might, when All Might was still number one and he was his backup during the raids. He has a place in society. It's nothing to be frowned on, but it's just that dogged mentality. He is boom or bust, and it doesn't allow him to see anything else but number one in the shadow of living in All Might. And he hates it, and I'm sure that he hates himself for not being able to be number one. And after he sees that, probably all the things that he can do, all the training, what can I do with my quirk, this and that. After he reaches his limit and he knows that he's at his limit, that mentality that he has, it won't allow him to just give up. It's number one or nothing else. It's probably what he's waking up, what he's going to sleep thinking. It's number one or nothing else. What can I do? What can I do? How can I get to number one? And eventually he lands on, what? If I can't beat him, what if I can have a kid and I can raise him up to be number one? If I didn't have, if my body didn't overheat, like if I could just keep on using my heat quirk and just, never cease to stop using my quirk, then I could be better than All Might. I know I could, but I would just need some way to cool myself down. And then, he searches out, and through his status as number two and with the money that comes with it and whatnot, and why wouldn't you want your daughter to marry one of the best heroes in the country. So he's able to finesse that relationship with Ree, and they have their first child. And Endeavor's intent is her family has an ice quirk, I have a fire quirk. When we come together, the kid will have the best of both worlds. He'll be able to use my quirk without having any of its downfalls. His body will never overheat because he can cool himself down with the ice, and his body will never be too cold because he can heat himself up with the fire. And if he's able to just keep going like this, keep pushing himself, he'll definitely be able to surpass All Might. I can put my hopes, my dreams, and ambitions on him, and I can will him to the top. I'll be able to win. I'll be able to be the number one. Vicariously living through my kid. So there we can kind of there you can just see the mental break in him. He's not even looking at All Might as a colleague. He's just a goal that has to be surpassed. Instead of wanting to work with him and build a relationship and come together, he's at odds with him. He's like, no, I need to be better than you at any cost. And now what I'm going to do is I can't be better than you. I'm going to have a kid that can be better than you. And I'm going to push him, and I'm going to make sure he's better than you. Why? And, this is the degree that number one or nothing has pushed him to. So, and of course he has his first kid, originally Toya. And he comes out, it's just Endeavor's quirk. He has the same, he has Hellfire, Cremation, whichever you choose. He has the same fire quirk that Endeavor possesses, and, the same red hair. Of course, Endeavor's a tad bit disappointed, but he's like, you know what? I still have a son, I'm still going to try. Maybe, who knows? So he starts their training, and he convinces him to be a number one hero. And you can kind of see from the flashbacks and whatnot in the beginning of Toya's childhood, there were smiles on their faces and there was laughter. He was excited to be a hero like his dad because, of course, any kid, they're going to want to be like their dad. Of course, they're going to want to be a hero. And, especially if their father's saying, hey, you know what? I want to make you the number one hero. You're going to be the number one hero, and, you're going to be better than me. So, of course, originally everything is received with good intentions. They're both on the same page. But as time goes on, we find out that Toya's quirk is stronger than Endeavor's quirk. His flames are blue. But at the same token, his body isn't ready to handle that quirk. He's not ready to handle that much amount of heat. He burns quicker. He will probably overheats quicker than Endeavor does too. So, he has that high ceiling of, I have way more firepower than you. And, I can master, some of your techniques and use some of your techniques at this young age. But the offset to that is, since I have just as much firepower as you, I can have more firepower than you. I overheat quicker, and my body isn't ready to handle my quirk. So you couple that with the intense training that he was most likely doing, building blocks of becoming a strong hero and surpassing All Might that Endeavor wanted. He began to push him a little bit too. He probably began to push him too far. He's like, okay, this is getting harder. I'm hurting myself. And we see that Endeavor, he's still not satisfied. He probably sees this and he's like, you know what? This kid, he's going to be just like me, Same Hellfire quirk, even though, he has way more firepower than me. He's going to overheat the same way I do, and he's going to run into that ceiling of, I can't keep using my quirk because my body can't handle it. He's already beginning to burn and hurt himself with his quirk at this young age. So, I gotta go back to the drawing board. So, he has another daughter, and she only has an ice quirk. So, he's dealing, so he's probably frustrated, dealing with that frustration. It's like, okay, it's not coming out the way I want to. I'm not getting that quirk. I'm not getting the perfect fire quirk coming together and making, just one great quirk. So he's probably leaning harder on Toya, like, hey, come on, like, still, this is his best shot. It's in seeing some of himself, that resentment that he probably has towards, that resentment that he does have towards himself about, not being able to be the number one, and this is his only option. Toya's probably starting to feel that. He's probably starting to see like, oh man, he pushes me harder, but I don't think I want to do this anymore. He's getting to a point where he's probably becoming disillusioned with being a hero and all this training and the abuse. So Endeavor, of course, he has another kid, and he runs into the same issue. And if their other brother has a quirk at all. And finally, he ends up with Shoto Todoroki, half fire, half ice. And this is the point he's like, yes, all right, I did it. Finally, I got it right. Half fire, half ice. No ceiling. He can get as hot as he wants. He can get as cold as he wants. He can push himself way beyond what any of us are capable of. And I think like the ripples of that, is definitely felt throughout his family. And that's, how we see ourselves coming back to Toya. He's probably seeing this. He's like, okay, so this is what you wanted. You weren't satisfied with me because I'm just like you, and you're not satisfied with them because they don't have the mix, my other siblings, because they don't have the mix that you want. And I don't want to do this hero stuff anymore. Like, this isn't what I want. His quirk is literally hurting himself, but he's being pushed to master it at a young age. He's, being taught, his hellfire fist and all of his, top techniques at such a young age. But, that's not what he wants anymore for himself at this point. And now saying that Shoto is here and he's everything that your father wanted. So what am I now? He has his father's, ambitions and his goals that were weighing him down and destroying his life. Now all of a sudden is ripped away from him and thrown on to Shoto. But this is the blessing. You know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I don't have to do this anymore. It's great. But at this point, what does he have? He wasn't given a regular childhood. He doesn't have friends. And all he knows is how to train and, hurt himself with his quirk. He probably doesn't even look like the other kids at this point. He's all burnt up. And so how is he going to fit in? How is he going to, go about having a normal life now? How is his family going to receive him? I'm pretty sure, and now we see that, the mother, she's going through her issues, beginning to crack from, the abuse that she sees Endeavor putting the kids through, and more than likely the abuse that she's going through because, she's having, children with someone that she probably doesn't even really love. This was an arranged marriage. It was an arranged quirk marriage. She understands that she's just being used, and she probably feels just like the kids do. But, her oldest son is almost a mirror image of Endeavor, if not worse, because he's stronger and all he can do is hurt himself with his quirk. And now you have Todoroki, the youngest son. He's everything that he wanted. So what does he need any of us now for? Why will he be bothered? So where would Toya have to go? He can't go to his mother because she more than likely only sees Endeavor in him. The same quirk, the same hair, and they probably look alike. Now he ends up to a point where he's isolated. He's crying to his brother about, what's my purpose? What am I going to do in my life? He has no goal now. He has no future because, he has nothing. Todoroki's here. My dad's not worried about me becoming the #1 hero anymore. He has what he really wants, and now I'm just left here, broken and scarred, and for what? Who's gonna save me? Where's my hero? Where's my family? He has, once again, not to keep repeating myself, but he's at a point where he has nothing, and this is where I think things escalate and get worse as Todoroki gets older. And we have the incident where I know a lot of people say that, he fakes his own death and that's, he sneaks away and that's how he becomes Dabi. I feel like he would have been a bit too young to just, okay, I know how to fake my own death. This is what I'm going to do. And now I'm going to run away here. And I know it may be a little dark, but it's my personal theory that what happened, the incident that happened involved Toya, and the fire was more than likely him trying to kill himself. I don't see him, doing that much damage, trying to fake his death. And I believe it was a suicide attempt that, he failed and, he escaped from. And then he went off to, live his life in seclusion and hatred, or, he ran into whatever underground group that, fed into that seclusion and hatred. But now the family dynamic, of course, now has changed. That hellfire quirk, that's what Endeavor is. He's destruction. Why does this have to be our dad? Why does this have to be the man that I'm married to? And I feel like it's at this point where Endeavor, he probably sees, he's like, man, he killed himself with his own quirk, and it was my quirk. You know, he inherited that from me. He has that weight, like, man, that's all I'm good. I can't be number one. And now my own son, you know, he inherited my quirk, and it killed him. So now he's just like, you know what? He's probably at a point where, you know, now the mother's saying this, she's at the degree where as though she's like, you know, like, no more. You know, we can probably see that she's beginning to have her own psychological breaks and breakdown to where as though she's like, my first son is dead. My youngest son is, you know, being held captive by my husband and forced to train and become some number one hero, or, you know, the next, you know, whatever. He's a slave to, you know, my husband's whim, and there's nothing I can do about it. Who am I going to talk? Who am I going to talk to? Who am I going to call out to? Everybody's probably going to think they're crazy. Everybody's going to think I'm crazy. And you know, we can see that she's had conversations with her family. She's probably reached out to her family about her own abuse and what's going on. But they're probably like, hey, he's the number one hero. Like, relax. Like, you know, don't go against him. He just wants, of course, you know, he wants his son to be, or his kids to be, you know, following his footsteps and be heroes. They're probably pacifying, you know, the abuse as well, which, you know, is probably leaving her at a state where, you know, she just feels isolated, and there's nothing she can do except watch her children be abused by someone that she doesn't even love and is only using them for their ice quirk. We get back to Endeavor and Todoroki and how he's so much harder on him than I feel like he was on any of the other kids, because he's probably like, all right, this is my last shot. You know, she's at a degree where, you know, I'm not gonna be able to have, you know, kids with her again. You know, she's not gonna allow me to do that. She's probably not gonna bring any more kids into this vicious cycle. You know, so she's too mentally far gone. My oldest son has killed himself. The other two are useless. So he's just leaning on Todoroki. He's like, hey, everybody, they're dead to you. You don't need to worry about, you know, they have weak mental constitutions. They're weak. The only thing you need to worry about is becoming the number one hero and mastering your quirks. So, you know, Todoroki gets that push and abuse, but you know, there's probably no love there. There's probably, you know, no bond. You know, the bond that he originally had with Toya, he doesn't have with Todoroki. He sees Todoroki, he's like, yes, have ice, have fire. I can see it. The end goal is here. All I gotta do is lay the foundation, push him. And, you know, the means justify the end. He'll be the number one hero. It's, you know, the best thing you can do. You know, be a hero. Why not? Like, I'm doing the right thing. So in his head, I'm pretty sure he's justified himself as right, which is why he's able to do all of this. And, you know, Todoroki gets older and goes through the incident with his mother. You know, she sees, you know, half of his face, and, you know, she's like, you know what, you look like your dad. I don't like that. And, you know, she burns him. So then, you know, you have Endeavor in turn. He abuses her, and now where does Todoroki have to go to? You know, his mother hates him. You know, his siblings, he can't really go to them. You know, he saw what good his older brother got, you know, just from going to his siblings and trying to talk to them. He has nowhere to go except for back to his abusive father. Always what kind of intrigued me about Todoroki and the process of his quirks is his resistance to his father. Like, you know what? I'm not going to use the fire half of my quirk at all. All I need is the ice. I can still be the number one hero, but I don't have to use your quirk. I can do it without you. I'm going to show you that I'm better than you and I don't need you. And, you know, this is probably also from, you know, that abuse that he had from his mother saying, hey, you know, your left side is unsightly. Seeing the pain and everything that Endeavor brings, of course, he's going to distance himself as far as he can possibly. And, you know, originally I didn't like Todoroki's costume just because, you know, he covers, you know, the other side of his body with the, you know, it's like fake ice, you know, he's covered with it, you know, just because, you know, he's even going that far. He's like, you know, this is going to be my hero costume. It's not really practical. It's just half of his body is covered in ice. And he's saying to himself, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to cover this up. I don't like this. You know, my unsightly left side, I don't need it. Why would Endeavor allow this? Why would he allow Todoroki to only use his ice quirk? Why would he allow him to have this type of costume and everything? And I believe because he understands that he can't push him too far. If he pushes him too far, he could end up like Toya. You know, he could go off the deep end, lose control of his quirk, and possibly destroy himself. He's like, at some point, I know you're going to use the Hellfire quirk. I know you're gonna use it. I just gotta wait. I gotta wait. I'll still train you. I'll still, I'm still gonna push you, but at some point you'll use it. But I understand that I can't push you too far into using it because you're my last shot. I can't lose you. And if you go off the deep end, then what am I gonna do? I can't have any more kids with her. More than likely, there's no one else out there that he sees as viable for having more children with, and also it would be detrimental to his reputation. I can't just go out here and have kids with another woman and get a divorce. I'm the number 2 hero. It's going to look bad on me. It's going to look bad on my family name. It will damage all of that. So now he's like, okay, he has to go along with Todoroki's acting out. He has to go along with it because this is his last shot. And until, Deku comes and saves him from that ideology, that's your quirk. That's the thing that was given to you. It's not your father's quirk. It's not your mother's quirk. It's both of those coming together to make uniquely you. Not his mother, not his father, but Shoto Todoroki, nobody else. And so then he's able to use his left. And, of course, his father's excited. He's like, yes, finally, that breakthrough happened. The kid, he pushed him and he was able to, now he's going to use his left. Now I can teach him all the, the Hellfire stuff and everything that he needs to know to be able to use that quirk to its maximum. And now, the sky's the limits for this kid. And, you can see, how far he's so far gone in, his number one or nothing logic, that life from his entire family. And now he's looking at it as, yes, I won. This is the next step. Everything's coming into fruition. I got everything laid out. I just gotta give it time and wait. But, as time goes on, we can kind of see that the environment that Todoroki ends up in, he ends up opening up to some of the other kids and coming around and being more social just because of the environment that he grew up in. He's not used to positive reinforcement and people who genuinely care about him just because, not outside of his quirk and this hero stuff. These are the first friends that he's ever had. So, in adjusting to this and being able to, become a better hero and forgive his dad, it opens up a window for Endeavor to, potentially see. He's like, what? So, okay. So he these kids in UA, they're pushing him and he's, working really hard at his goal of becoming a number 1 hero, but maybe I didn't need to, brutally train him when he was a kid, separate him from his family. You see these thoughts and doubts begin to creep in his head. But then, I feel like this is where we get the regression in Endeavor's mind and, his logic, to where though All Might has to retire and now he's the new number 1. And, we see him throw the fit, he tears up his house and he's just so upset. He's like, yeah, now, it's finally what he wanted, but he knows that he didn't earn it. Everybody in the world knows he didn't earn it. In everybody's eyes, he's still All Might's number 2. He still sees himself that way. Even though him being number 1 is like a joke now. So however he felt about himself before, now is worse. His self-esteem, everything. It's come down a level just because now he has to parade around and be the number 1. Except now he knows he's not the number 1. And of course, in his first big sign of heroics or whatever, when he fights the High and Nomu, and what does he do? He ends the fight in doing the same pose that All Might did, except with the opposite arm. So even in his greatest moments of protecting society and everybody doubting him, he's still living up to All Might's legacy. He'll never get out of his shadow. So as he's experiencing these lows, we see that the family, even though everything that he did to them, there's still there's a small degree of love there. There's something there because everybody's concerned. Even Todoroki is, once he hurts himself. And it's Endeavor, he's finally probably able to come to the realization that, hey, maybe I was wrong in my actions, in my, my logic. The means don't justify the ends. What I did to my family was wrong. And then you see him wanting to, repair some of these relationships in his family. And of course, some of the kids are left in. Todoroki, he cares, but he's a bit distant. He's distant with his father just because of everything that happens, these emotions, the abuse, all of that is not going to go away overnight. And just as, they're beginning to make, some of the most progress in their relationships, of course, Dabi, he pops back up. Well, now Dabi pops up and he's like, hey, my real name is Toya. I'm Endeavor's son. Endeavor, he exposes Endeavor. He's like, Endeavor abused me as a child. You abused all my siblings, my mother, Todoroki. We're all just experiments to him. And Todoroki is just, his first successful experiment. And of course, confronted with all this, we see Endeavor break down. It's something he's never done any other time. He was ready to get up. He's like, what? I don't care. This holes in my lungs, whatever. I'm about to, plus ultra. He sees his son, his oldest son that he thought was dead, and it just breaks him down. Because, he sees himself up there. He's like, he's still alive. That's me. That's everything I've done. This is the other half of my legacy. And now, it's coming to light. Dabi is now, he's a villain associated with the League of Villains. He's been attacking the school, attacking my son, attacking Hero Society. And now, his master plan, Dabi's master plan, he's like, what, now I'm going to kill Shoto in front of you, and just to see the look on your face. And right there, I think, that's like, we can see that, Dabi, I understand he's clever, he's a great villain, but mentally, I believe he's stunted. He's just, he's stuck in that childhood trauma that he had, and he's unable to, that's what he lives his life by. He doesn't have anything outside of this, and that's what his whole world revolves around. So even if he was able to kill Todoroki in front of Endeavor, like what would he do after that? He would be back in the place that he was, I believe, as when he tried to commit suicide as a kid. He has nothing, and ultimately he might, maybe this time that might be how he decides to end it all. But, of course we don't get that, because, they're able to subdue Dabi to a degree, keep him from killing Todoroki, and then all for one, they take their great escape. But, Endeavor, now the truth has been exposed, everybody knows, and of course, Dabi, he's not done. He's like, all right, what, I'm not done. He's gonna come back. We see his angle. He's like, I gotta kill him. I see him. I gotta kill Todoroki. He's your greatest creation. He made you discard me. So that's why I feel like that hate that he has for Todoroki comes from the hate of his father, because he's like, once he came along, it's like I was nothing. What did you do all that stuff to me for then? If once he comes along, you're gonna throw me away? Why couldn't I have a regular childhood? Why couldn't I be happy or have something else? So, and at the same time, you have Todoroki in the hospital bed, and he's just thinking to himself. He's like, I was like he was. He's just like me, how I was back in the day when I had nothing but hatred for my father, and hatred for half of myself. And there's no way our dad can stop him. There's no way that he can stop him. And I think the reasoning he's saying there's no way our dad can stop him, I think Todoroki wants to do more than just beat his brother in a fight. He wants to save his brother from the hatred that he has from himself. He wants to give him a life outside of their father's legacy, and show him that there's more to life than what they endured in the past as children, and how they can move on. Which, brings me to Todoroki's future, and how I believe that after all this is said and done, when Todoroki and Dabi do clash, and, we see whomever comes out on top, I think, if it ends up being Todoroki, him winning, I think the best thing would be Endeavor should finally retire. And with his retiring, Todoroki can take on the name Endeavor. It's their redemption arc, for their family, and that name means something else. Everything that was connected to all of my father's ambition and all the things that he did to achieve it. No, that's not what this is gonna mean. I'm going to be the one to make this name mean something. That's not gonna be the name that hovers over their family. It's gonna be something else. He will be a better, hero and a better person than his dad. And that's how, his entire family could, begin a redemption arc where Endeavor can go off and get the help that he needs, just like his wife did. And, then he can begin to make amends with his family. And, maybe he can just go off and be a teacher at the school, since he is a great mentor. He does run one of the best hero agencies in the country. So I feel like, that could be, his end all arc in his future. You know what? I can be better. Maybe he can stop kids from becoming like him. He can say, hey, there's dangers in only chasing the top. If it's great to chase the top, but if you try your hardest, you tried your best, and you end up a little bit short of the top, still be satisfied in what you were able to achieve in your end goal. Don't cheat yourself out of the happiness you could have just because you can't be number one. You're still a hero. And whether you're, number one or number 100, hero's job is to save people. And all at the end of the day is matters is you saving people, you helping the community. That's what matters, not the number. So that's just my take on the entire family and how, their art could come to an end and what we could be potentially seeing in the future. It just depends on what direction Horikoshi wants to go in it. So definitely tell me how you're feeling in the comments. What are your theories? Anything I miss, drop some likes, subscribe, share. Thank you for stopping by the channel. Peace.